welcome to the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Rose. And as always, a big shout out to all the free spirits, the independent thinkers, and the Mavericks walking your unique path. I'm happy to announce my guest today, Agnes Beleznay, my favorite Feng Shui Master. She's also an astrologer. We're going to talk about Feng Shui tips to do right around the time of the Virgo New Moon. This is being recorded in August, and we have a new moon in Virgo in August and in September. And Agnes is going to share with us energetic enhancements that we can do right around this very special time. Hi, Agnes. I'm so glad that you're here today.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you so very much for having me again.
So for those of you who may not know Agnes, because she has been a guest a few times already on this podcast, she lives in Miami and she has studied astrology. So she has a very good base of astrology, but she is an expert in Feng Shui. And what's interesting about Agnes is she's also created a line of artwork, and you can see it behind her, the beautiful artwork that's behind her. And the artwork helps to enhance Feng Shui, and it's just spectacular. And you've recently come out with a new book, correct?
Yes, Kathy. Thank you for bringing it up. I actually have my book right here. It is called The Power of Nine. And because we are since February 2024, we are in the period of nine. According to Feng Shui principles, there are 20-year long periods. So 2024 through 2044 is one stretch of time. We work here as this is a completing cycle, and it is also the cycle of purple fire. So we work with a different set of energies than 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I can attest to how powerful nine is right now. I've used some of your past suggestions. So let's dive in. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, one of the reasons we're scheduling this for August of 2025, is we have a new moon in Virgo coming up on August 23rd. And then we have a very special opportunity with a new moon again in September, on September 21st. The difference is August 23rd, the new moon is at 0 degrees, the very beginning of the sign. September 21st, it's at 29 degrees, and it's an eclipse in September.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me why the new moon in Virgo is so special in terms of Feng Shui.
So I think actually you have coined the expression Feng Shui New Moon. So that's
Yeah.
your invention, because as we move into the fall season and school year starts and we wrap up the summer, this is typically when the Virgo full moon starts, either the last week of August or in September. And so this gives us this sense of needing to be organized, having a clean, decluttered environment. And hence your term of the Feng Shui new moon, because we really have this inner urge aligned with Virgo season to clean and organize things. This year, I find it fascinating. Like you mentioned, we have a 0 degree Virgo moon and we have a 29 degree, which is so close also to the fall equinox. It's an eclipse, a solar eclipse, as you have mentioned. And it has the two new moons have very different set of energies, yet they both are very important from a Feng Shui point of view. The first one at 0 degree in August is very pure, and it's the beginning. And even though there is also quite a complex set of energies astrologically around it, exactly because of that, you need to keep things simple, decluttered, and really parting ways with any objects, any items, any ideas, any digital files that no longer serve us. the second new moon because it is the very last degree, and it has somewhat restrictive energies due to it being opposed to Saturn in the last degree of Pisces. But then the same day, the moon changes signs and goes into Libra, where it will aspect Uranus in Gemini. It will aspect Neptune in Aries. I will call that new moon more like, from a Feng Shui perspective, a multisensory moon. And so, just how we have decluttered everything in August, by the next new moon on September 21st, we also will have a little energy of the upcoming holiday season, the fall season, Halloween, and then, the season coming after that. So for the second new moon, I would suggest to bring in a full-scale Feng Shui upgrade, which means that true Feng Shui is a multi-sensory experience. So it's not only having the basics, the decluttered, clean environment, but a place has to smell good. It has to have the right lights.
Yes.
We have to touch different sensory textures. So it's a multisensory experience. And so with the second new moon in Virgo, I would emphasize that aspect, while the first one would be a very clean slate.
Ooh, that is so beautiful. And I have always found anytime the moon is in Virgo, even just during the month, because once a month it will be in that sign, but particularly at the new moon in Virgo, I feel so phenomenally nourished and fulfilled when I clean something. When I do detailed
So,
dusting or move furniture around, it's and I don't enjoy dusting. I don't know. Well, my sister does, and she's a Virgo, but aside from that, I don't know a whole lot of people who do enjoy it. But if you do it when the moon is in the right sign, you are so in the flow. So the 0 degree new moon, August 23rd, and it is a complex astrological pattern for both of them. When you talk about decluttering, when I talk to astrological clients and I'll say, have you decluttered your house recently? And some of them will say, yes, I have. So if you talk to somebody and their house is pretty simplified already, what would you recommend?
if a house is already simplified, I would recommend cleaning, extra cleansing, or repainting the front door, cleaning and cleansing the windows. Somehow, I have this experience like in Europe, it's so different. Cleaning the windows is a very natural phenomenon. Here in the US, I often feel that's the neglected aspect of houses because shops or big high-rise buildings, windows get cleaned, but at home, not so much. And don't underestimate that effect because energy comes into a place through openings. So while feng shui can be very mystical and it can bring in energies from other dimensions, the basics are common sense. And so, because the energy comes into the space where it can come through a door or a window, and these always need to be sparkly cleaned.
Mm.
So, a little OCD goes a very long way in terms of feng shui.
That is an excellent suggestion. And I don't know why windows don't get cleaned here as much, but maybe it's because when you have a two-story house, it's hard to find people who will come out and do it with ladders or so forth. But I've heard the windows are the eyes of the house. Does that make sense?
It does very much so. And now that we are very much in this subject, with windows and doors, I have many clients in super modern houses, not only in South Florida, but at other parts of the United States as well, and other parts of the world. And with feng shui, the key is balance. So it's so beautiful to have all of these windows, especially if they are clean. But if a home is like a glass cage by windows only on every side, and even maybe a glass transparent entrance door, it's a little bit too much too. So it's nice to keep windows and doors opening in balance. So we need
Mhm.
to have a few walls, a few solid structures, even within
Mhm.
a modern space.
So if somebody's house does need decluttering or simplification, um, is there any advice you have on specifics, like specific placements of things right around this new moon? Any colors, any particular enhancements?
Yes. So typically, I would associate the Virgo new moon with the northeast direction, which in Feng Shui is an earth element. It stands for knowledge, discerning, advises. So, in somewhat energetically in line with the Virgo energies. However, this year, this northeast is a little afflicted. So, in addition to decluttering, not to disturb too much the energies there, but it would be great to install a few metallic colored objects in the northeast. So
Mhm.
cleanse it, but also use some metal elements to enhance or compensate rather the too much earth energy in the northeast.
Mm, interesting.
This actually goes with every direction a little bit. So you asked about like what else to do. I mentioned cleaning the windows, cleaning the door, and about the main entrance with very little color corrections or elemental corrections. We can further fine tune the feng shui energies, especially that we have almost like another 6 months left at the time of this recording, because the lunar new year starts in February. So this early August time frame is a halfway point. So we still have 6 more months to work with the energies, and it's perfect to update depending on which direction your main entrance faces to add a little elemental emphasis or correction if needed.
So can you give some examples?
Yes, I can give you all of the directions. So, if your main entrance faces northeast, like I mentioned, there is an overwhelming amount of earth energy. So, you can put a gray doormat or add something metallic, a metallic object close to the main entrance. If your main door faces east, even though that's a wood element, but this year it has joyful events, energy,
Mm.
probably, you went through that energy with your grandbaby, if I may say. So if you put nine little objects or a touch of red. So this year it's actually great to place a red doormat into the east.
Mm.
If it's facing southeast, use the color blue. If it is facing south, a little bit of white. If it is in the southwest, you can use the element of earth like crystals or beautiful clay pots. If it's in the west, you can use this year plants, but the plants can be silver or white in color. And if it is the northwest, just place a hint of pink. And I can talk hours about like why this, why that. Oh, and if it's the north, place a little bit of blue. But you have to trust me with that, that there is a reason when I say
Mhm.
touch,
Mhm.
just place a touch of pink, a hint of pink in the northwest.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know the reasons why, but when I do it, it feels good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
your senses will tell you because it engages harmony, it engages alignment. And if your instincts are aware and your senses are open, just trust what Agnes says and try it, and then notice how you feel.
Thank you for that. I just would like to use this northwest, since this was one of the last directions. So the northwest is naturally a metallic element. It stands for the patriarch. But this year, we have some conflicting energy that can lead on the lower level to quarrels or disagreements. But if it is not properly adjusted, it can go to full-blown legal cases. It is the number three wood star, which is a very invasive wood energy. And that normally can be controlled with fire because fire eats up the wood energy. However, in the Northwest, because it's an important part and the metal element, we cannot use fire because that would melt the metal, that would decrease the energy from the patriarch. So placing something that is pink, which is a very softened fire energy, so it will not burn the metal, but yet symbolically uses the negative wood energies, while I am suggesting to put just a touch of pink in the Northwest this year. And it can be as easy as like a salt crystal lamp, for example, or I do have a nice chunk of rose quartz crystal in the Northwest. I'm actually using that because it gives the color pink that I needed. But also another subtle meaning is that the crystal as earth element gives metal. So it's kind of like a double whammy. It fuels the intrinsic metal energy of the Northwest, at the same time gives a little go away to the negative wood energy.
My guest today on the Maverick Podcast, Agnes Beleznay, Feng Shui Master, Astrologer, author, and artist. Let's talk about something. It just is coming to mind, not related to what you just said, just popped into my head. And that is, I was talking to a client a few days ago who is looking for a job. And she just got laid off and she needs another job and she needs it soon. And of course, I recommended she contact you to have some enhancements in career. But when you are looking at the zone of the house, the part of the house that deals with career, you're not looking at there's a different form of feng shui that just lays the Bagua map and puts it into 9 little corners and they say career is going to be the front center. You're looking at the directions.
Yes, because so in this specific situation, and thank you for your referral, if somebody is looking for a job, the very first thing I would look at are the personal energies. So, what is her or his or her personal success direction? And then I would look within the home, according to Flying Star Feng Shui, where is the most important water star, because water relates to finances. So if somebody is looking for a job, we want to make sure that there is a continuity with water energy. And then finally, I would look at the universal career direction, which is north. So the north part of the house, the north part even of her bedroom. And so, because true feng shui is really merging these energies. So the personal energy with the spatial energy, adding a time dimension. So it's personal, spatial, and time. And if somebody is looking for a job, obviously the personal energies are the most important because this is not a generalized situation. It's specific to them. And then secondly, the space. It is specific to their place. And then, of course, we have to look at it in context of time. That would be equivalent like transits in a chart.
So when you are looking for their personal part, you're doing this from their birthday. Is that correct?
Yes. So this is called, in Chinese, it is called the Pachi chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives the energies also with what we are born with in terms of elements. So it also has an hour, a day, a month, and a yearly energy. And within that, it can be a yin or yang, fire, yin or yang, wood, metal, earth, or water
Mm-hmm.
energy. And so based on that, we also can fine tune and correct if there is an imbalance. So if somebody was laid off, they need to balance an imbalance,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And do the flying stars change from year to year?
So the flying stars do change from year to
That's what I
year.
thought.
Yes, yes. Not the basic layout of a home.
Mm-hmm.
So if a house was built, let's say in this period 9, then it comes with a specific set of flying star numbers. So the space has its own energy. However, it changes from year to year because the yearly flying stars are changing, and the way how they affect the
Mm-hmm.
space's energy will change too.
Yeah, and this is why we need an expert like you. So, the new moon, August 23rd, declutter, refresh, clean. And then let's talk about the one in September, the multi-sensory, which I always think is so very, very important. You know, when you bake muffins and you fill your house with that wonderful scent, or you put some aromatherapy, or you just open your windows and get fresh air, changing the old air into new, fresh life force air. I mean, that affects every single part of you. Even if your house is clean, but it smells bad or the air is stale, it makes a difference.
It absolutely does. And I'm so happy to have experienced recently during my travels that quite a few hotel chains started to realize that. So there is a new chain that is mostly in Florida, but also at some other parts called Opal Hotels. There is
Mm.
another chain belonging to Delta Airlines, Delta Hotels, and they each created their signature scent. So
Mm.
when you walk into these places, even if you would walk in blindfolded, you would know where you are. So it's not only at the sense of a clean space, but also a signature scent, not on our bodies, but in our environment, has a very profound effect on the brain too. You know, like if a space can create these sensory memories, not only the home, but I'm talking about now more from a business perspective. If somebody has a small business, a brick and mortar store,
Mhm.
uh, and I'm pretty sure soon we will have sense coming through AI at
Mhm.
one point. Um, it's very important, you know, it creates a sensory vibe, a memory, and a very strong subconscious energy, how we relate to the place, because it evokes also the association of spring or ocean or cleanliness, or so super important. Yeah.
Mhm. And I would think that sound is also important. Another multi-sensory would be the music that you play or what you hear in that environment.
Absolutely. And so sound has also multiple uses in Feng Shui. First of all, cleaning and cleansing energy with sound, like with a singing bowl, truly resets the energy of
Mhm.
any space through vibration.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely. I
because,
have one and I play it frequently, especially in between client sessions.
yes, or even little chimes like the Tibetan chimes to
Mhm.
reset the energy of any space. So sound is very powerful and can be used for cleansing, can also be used for channeling certain energies like wind chimes, for example, they essentially grab the air energy and turn it into a metallic vibrational
Mm.
energy. So those can be used if we want to emphasize a metallic sector, or we can use it to emphasize a water sector because metal holds water. And finally, we can use music to create an ambience or bring in a very specific set of frequency into our space.
Hmm. I remember in one of the past episodes you were on, you mentioned something, and I think maybe we need to talk about it again for the new moon in August, August 23rd at 0 Virgo. And that is, if I recall correctly, you said when you start the process of decluttering, I think you said do it for 9 days straight.
Yes, 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 yes. And I love it because it would be so perfect if you start it on the 23rd, because 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 30th and 31st of August, exactly 9 days.
Mm,
So it's easy to remember if you start decluttering, if your first day of decluttering is on the 23rd of August, then your ninth day will be the 31st. And this is a very powerful method, not only because of period 9, but I believe I may have brought it up that in a variety of religions and spiritual practices, there is a 9 day event, like for instance, a novena, which is in Catholic Christian religions, a 9 day ceremony of continuous prayer, or in Taoism, 9 days, or in Buddhist religion, in Hindu religion, in Muslim, in all of the religions, there is something about a couple of times a year, which is the 9 day long ceremony. I wonder if it has to do with the nine planets or why nine everywhere. But the 9 day decluttering refers to carrying physically out something from your space for 9 consecutive days. So,
mm,
um, relieving the energy of the space and by extension, creating a mini vacuum that will bring in the new energies. So everything you
wonderful.
release creates the space. For example, if somebody, back to your client who's looking for a job, or if somebody's looking for a new love partner, it's always best to preactively create the space for that new. So decluttering for 9 days would be perfect. And whether you create that fresh decluttered space on your desk or in your bedroom, it just depends where would you like to which
Mhm.
life area, which aspiration you would like to bring in the energy.
And one thing people can do is add artwork and add certain colors, which is why you have this beautiful line of feng shui art um, to specifically energize certain areas and certain elements in the directions. Your art is spectacular. I love the gold heart behind you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathy. And as a fellow artist, my first inspiration was your mandala art that is just as equally energizing and very much reminds me of loving from the inside out
Mhm.
type of energy and more. And your sense of color is just so amazing. So, it would be nice to exhibit our pieces maybe one day together. But about the Golden Heart, it's a new invention because the first week of September, I have an exhibition in New York City. And it's a very interesting and very old tradition called art on paper.
Mm,
And we are allowed to exhibit only creations made from paper. So that gold heart is actually created using only different papers,
mm.
different consistency of papers on the background as well as the heart itself.
When you change art, I mean, even the simplest thing, if you can't move your furniture around or you can't afford new furniture, change your art and it 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 changes the whole vibration. It says something new.
It really does. And I don't quite remember. I should look back, like where was I sitting at our different talks, but you can see how I change it for myself. So,
Mhm.
and I'm sitting now at a different part of the home because the energy has changed. And so this is the part of the home where I can face one of my better personal directions.
Mhm.
So I actually really enjoy doing that myself because I feel different when I rearrange the space, just simply by facing different directions. I think it's also very healthy for our brains to rewire them so there is a
Mhm.
freshness. And it always helps us to find creative solutions or just be inspired creatively.
Mhm. So, what happens so often for people when they start to declutter, it's amazing how many people I speak to who will admit their home is filled floor to ceiling with items they don't use anymore, or items they haven't touched, or items that are just dead energy, basically. It's amazing how many people go, "Oh, yeah, my house is filled with that." But I know when you start to declutter and you release stale items, sometimes it can be very overwhelming. And sometimes you create a big mess as you are trying to lighten your load. The worst thing to do is to stop it in the middle of that. You know how many times you've cleaned out a closet and you take everything out, and then you get overwhelmed and you leave everything on the floor. The closet is now clean, but all the items from the closet are in the room now.
Yeah.
So you, so your advice about doing it for 9 days straight and not stopping in the middle of the process, I think is important because overwhelm, and it's a whole lot of work to donate items, to get rid of them, to sell them, to throw them away. It's a whole lot of emotional work also.
Yes, it very much is so. And there are different methods. For example, I have a very nice client who decided that um, in order to bring in more harmonious family energies, he realized that the family sector was in the garage of his house that had like 30 years of clutter in it. And to avoid this, stalemate energy of decluttering and then stopping, he simply ordered a big container, the
Mhm.
ones they use when you build a house. And he placed it next to the garage. And for 9 days, he was just throwing immediately into that container. So there are so many practical solutions, how if you would like to discard, you can have a dumpster there and you actually professionally have everything taken away in 9 days away from the property. But you also can designate different boxes if like this is something you would like to give to somebody or something that goes for donation, and then finally the items you decide to discard. So it's important not to stop and really just understanding that this is a flow of energy.
Mhm.
And keep in mind when you get tired that the more you do it, the more good and new energy will come
Mhm.
into your life. And I also would like to add that it's not only the physical items. I started to designate 9 days for digital declutter because we all know too well when we look for the photo in the phone and we scroll and scroll and scroll, and there is a zillion other photos of, that we no longer need, or we just took it in the moment and we can't find what we need, or the files in the computer.
Mhm.
So digital decluttering is a very valid modern aspect of feng shui as well, simply because this is the energy we work with and we are exposed to on a daily basis, 24/7.
Yeah, that's incredibly important. And I think there's an epidemic of clutter. That's the experience I have when I talk to clients. When I ask, is there a lot of clutter in your life? It seems the vast majority will admit, yeah, I've let it get out of hand. And I'm not sure why that is, but maybe it's because we're just so busy in life.
I think part of it is that clearly that we are so busy and don't pay attention to that. Another large extent that I have seen, Kathy, is a fear-based thinking. It's very interesting, people holding on to things because they are afraid that maybe they will never be able to afford to buy of something of that caliber. So it can be a financial fear underlying. It can be an emotional fear, like if items from a person who you loved dearly and you are holding on while you desperately would like to have a new personal relationship or intimate relationship, and you can't have both. So with the flow of energy, we have to put ourselves into the flow. And by releasing the objects, releasing the fears associated with not having the things and having faith and belief that if not the exact same things, but we actually bring in something better.
Hmm. Yes, 100%. And so here we are saying, for those of you listening, you have this incredible energetic opportunity at the new moon in Virgo in August 23rd. Start your decluttering, start freshening the energy, do it for 9 days straight. Um, and then September 21st, the eclipse at 29 Virgo, which is opposite Saturn. I mean, that is such an important time. That is integrating something very important too, the multisensory, bring it into your whole environment, which I also believe when we look at the new moon in Virgo in August and September, the other thing we need to declutter is our mind. We
Yes,
need to declutter our thinking, our beliefs, because Uranus is in Gemini right now for a short time. It'll go back to Taurus for a little bit, but then in April of 26, it enters Gemini and stays there for 7 years. And that's declutter your mind. Be in charge of your thinking because your thinking and your beliefs are part of Feng Shui. It creates energy.
it absolutely does. And I am so happy you brought this up because I, for some reason, tend to look at Uranus in Gemini. It's like a big wind chime to me, like from a feng shui perspective, like these are metallic rods, even though it's an air sign, but it uses the energy of the air, channels down information straight,
Mhm.
loud from the skies into your brain and swipes out the corners. So I think with the overall astrological energies, this is of utmost importance. And maybe we can look at this whole time frame from one Virgo new moon to the next as a whole month of decluttering. And I really would love everybody to start doing the physical decluttering because I simply love the fact that August has 9 days from the 23rd, like I have mentioned. So it's easy to remember that if you start on Virgo new moon, the 23rd of August, you finish on the 31st. But then from that, we have another 3 weeks until the next new moon. And that would be a perfect time for adding a digital declutter and also adding the decluttering of the mindset and decluttering of the mind and resetting our thinking, even if needed by using a mental wind chime for
Mhm.
Uranus in Gemini visualization.
Well, thank you so much for all the tips. And I want to end with something you said, I think the first time you were a guest on this podcast, and I hope I can quote you well. I think you said, action creates energy.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what's so important, I think, right now for this upcoming new moon is you take action and it creates new energy in your life.
You do it by simply starting doing it. So
Mhm.
we can be so much in our head, overthinking. And really, the simplest way is before you engage with the Uranian energies, just get first into your body and start doing without overthinking. And then you pick up the flow, and then it's gonna be easier, just like with everything, you know? Don't
Mhm.
think, just do it.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. And I want to announce before we end to everybody that Agnes and I are going to be doing the 2026 astrological forecast together. So we're going to be doing the entire year and we're going to combine astrology and feng shui so that it will be very practical. It will give you helpful tips for how to enhance energy as we go through 2026. And we'll be talking about how the year of the horse begins next year also.
It will be fabulous. I really love how the two systems go hand in hand, and we need to know both really for understanding. And just like you incorporate in your astrological consultations and advices by calling people's attention, you know, that the environment is important, the other way around is also true. Using astrological timing for correcting feng shui is critical. And it, of course, influences not only our microenvironments, but also the macro environment of the world. And it will be lovely to chat and go through the timeline of 2026 or the year of the horse.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you,
Thank you
as
so much,
always.
Kathy. Bye, everyone. Thank you.